Hey everyone, Luke here, and once again, Tom and I are joining forces to chart a course through the stars for another round of indie space games coming in November. We've picked out 4 titles each that have got onto our radars this month, and as always, I don't think there's another channel that champions indie space games to the level that we go into, so make sure to support that. Some of these are looking like serious contenders, others are the kind of curious, creative projects that only the true indie aficionados will appreciate. So if you enjoy exploring the unknown and want to help the channel keep expanding faster than a warp core breach, give the video a like. It really helps the channel reach new galaxies, and trust me, it's a lot cheaper than upgrading your ship's hyperdrive. Now let's warp in. Battlegroup VR2 is shaping up to be one of the coolest Space Command experiences in virtual reality. You're not clicking on ships from a top-down map, you're literally standing on the bridge of your flagship watching the battle unfold around you, and issuing orders to your fleet in real time. It takes the concept of being a space admiral and turns it into something fully immersive, where you can direct corvettes, frigates and carriers, while the stars and laser fire lights up around you. Reminds me of that line from Blade Runner about the Tannhauser Gate, an absolute classic. Also, just a side note, but it's actually mentioned in the 1998 Soldier film with Kurt Russell. I'm not sure if anybody knows that, but it's a little bit of trivia that stuck with me. What I'm hoping for with Battlegroup VR2 is a real evolution over the first game. Something that captures the spectacle of fleet combat but gives it more depth and structure. You can play the demo right now and you can see new systems for upgrades, ship customization, and even different game modes like gauntlet challenges and open world exploration. Realistically, it might take a few updates before everything comes together perfectly, but even at launch, this looks like one of the most promising VR strategy experiences on the horizon. And one that makes you feel like you're actually commanding from the captain's chair. That's rare.
So, Surviving Mars is back. Not a sequel, not quite a remaster, but a relaunch. Paradox and Haemimont Games have basically gone back to the Red Planet, stripped the colony builder down to its titanium bones, and rebuilt it on the new engine. The result is a shinier, smoother version of Mars, better lighting, better performance, and a lot of quality of life fixes baked right in. So both Luke and I are a little bit mixed on this one. They could have dropped a DLC and called it a day, but instead they've done the bigger thing. They've moved it to a new engine and tried to future-proof the series. The idea of uniting all that old content into one coherent foundation is massive for modders and returning players. Visually, it's had a glow up as well. You can see the difference in lighting and reflections instantly. That being said, it is being sold as a new product, and we do have some concerns with that. Even with a discount, it's asking long-time players to buy in again. And while I do get the engine shift isn't just a patch job thing, it's still a bit of a bitter pill for those who already owned every DLC here. The success of this relaunch really hinges on what comes next. If those promised expansions, Feeding the Future, Machine Utopia, actually push the simulation deeper, it could mark a proper second life for Surviving Mars. But if this is just a visual tune-up and a political menu, people might not hang around for long.
Space Sim Tycoon is one of those games that immediately catches your eye with its concept. A full-on management and logistics sim set in space. You'll be building mining outposts, managing trade routes and turning raw materials into profit across a network of planets and stations. It's part factory builder, part space sandbox and part tycoon. All wrapped up in a procedurally generated universe with black holes, stars and plenty of places to expand your empire. Now I'll be honest, this is one I haven't had much hands-on time with beyond looking at the demo and the Steam page, but even from that it's intriguing enough to earn a mention here. The foundation looks solid and the mix of transport, production and space management could really click if the developers polish it up. Realistically, this is one to keep an eye on rather than dive straight into. But if you love the idea of running your own interplanetary business, Space Sim Tycoon might just surprise you.
So LT gamers, imagine if Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri had a baby with a spreadsheet full of corporate sabotage, and that is Interstellar Espionage Inc. It's a turn-based strategy game where you play an interstellar intelligence agency, balancing espionage, diplomacy, and of course a bit of raw greed for good measure. The idea here is to survive and of course thrive in a galaxy where everyone is armed with lasers and lawyers. This one seems right up our alley, a cerebral systems heavy sim that's more about outsmarting the AI than blasting it. And I really like the fact that it's leaning into informational warfare angle rather than traditional conquest. So hovering over celestial bodies to choose operations, managing agents, stealing research, feels something like Crusader King's politics wearing a space-age suit. Visually, it's very utilitarian, let's call it that, very menu driven, a lot of UI panels and data. This will put some players off who are looking more for the cinematic flair, but for you strategy grognards on this channel, that will be half the fun. The dev is very responsive too. He's added UI scaling, Vulkan support and smoother interactions based on the demo feedback, which is always a good sign. If it can build enough variety and narrative tension into these corporate rivalries, this one could be a big cult hit.
Just a quick interlude to say most of you who watch the channel are not subscribed, so make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button because it helps smaller channels like us grow really quickly, and both me and Tom really appreciate it.
Next, we have a twist on the colony sim formula. Generation Exile puts you aboard humanity's last great starship, a massive ark drifting through deep space. You're then tasked with rebuilding society and its fragile ecosystems turn by turn, so this one isn't a frantic real-time scramble, but more a measured, narrative-driven city builder where your choices will hopefully matter somewhat. And I'm properly intrigued by this one. The idea of merging turn-based structure with colony management could deliver a fantastic balance between human story and mechanical grind. The demo was very well received as well, and they've been listening to the feedback, which is always a fantastic indication for me. And this kind of small studio dedication, transparent, humble, but quietly ambitious, is exactly what makes the indie greats. Early access always brings some lingering questions though, so we are very curious about what is actually here on day one. The devs say plenty is planned, and the tone of their updates does give me confidence, but there is definitely an element of risk here. Still, with the premise, tone and clear attention to player feedback, Generation Exile could very easily become one of those sleeper hits that people discover a year later and wonder how the hell they missed it.
CGA Trek is a brilliant little retro throwback that looks like it beamed straight out of the 1980s. And I mean that in the best way possible. In fact, that might be something people say about me these days also. It's a lo-fi space adventure that embraces those old CGA visuals and quirky sound effects, complete with plenty of humour and Easter eggs tucked throughout. There's something genuinely fun about commanding your ship through these blocky star sectors, watching pixel explosions go off and listening to that robotic voice bark out orders. At least until you decide to turn it off for your own sanity. What I love about games like this is how much charm they pack into something so simple. CGA Trek doesn't take itself too seriously. It's built for nostalgia, laughs and quick bursts of old school fun. If it can keep expanding on that humour and keep the missions fresh, this could end up being one of those surprise feel-good indie hits of the month. Realistically, it's small and deliberately rough around the edges, but there's also the appeal. It's a time capsule you can actually play. It's also brought to us by Luke from Classic Games, who made the space sim Liberation that I've been really high on, and we always like his titles. I reached out and he gave me a working copy, and I've really enjoyed diving into this one to feel what games used to be like and enjoying a little bit of Trek on the side. Definitely go out and support developers like Luke because he's working hard to bring us these awesome nostalgic experiences.
Alright, you got us LT gamers, this one technically isn't in space, but it is definitely reaching for it. Skyformer drops you into a colossal skybound world where you're building bases among the clouds, terraforming the land below, and firing rockets into orbit. It's a blend of survival crafting, light automation, and engineering sandbox. If you're thinking this sounds a bit like No Man's Sky meets Satisfactory, you're definitely not far off. This one is quietly impressive. The dev has been pushing out regular updates, everything from revamped tutorials to chainable zip lines, and there's this whole underlying terraforming system that tracks temperature, storms and atmospheric conditions. So it's not just about the building, it's about the restoring, and everything feels very tactile. You're definitely going to be in the thick of it in this game. And it's going to release in early access for single player only right now, but with many moving parts, automation, weather, drones, base construction, it's going to need careful balance to avoid collapsing under its own complexity, so that's our one concern here. But if it all clicks, Skyformer could quietly become one of those cult favourites that scratches the same itch as No Man's Sky or Dyson Sphere program, so this is definitely one to keep an eye on.
SpaceBourne 2 is finally coming out of early access and into its full 1.0 release. And for an indie project, this thing is seriously ambitious. The game tries to merge spaceflight and on-foot planetary exploration, and while both are cool in concept, it's a space gameplay that really shines. Out among the stars, the combat and ship design feels rewarding, with that sense of freedom and scope you only get from true space sims. Once you hit the ground though, things get a little rougher. The land gameplay is janky, buggy, and still feels like it's catching up to the rest of the game's potential. I was playing this all week and I did encounter a number of bugs which was frustrating. Hopefully they've improved this for 1.0. What I hope is that this becomes a proper cult favourite for players who don't mind digging through a few rough edges to find the gold underneath. The framework is all there, big open galaxy, faction system, ship progression, it just needs something to smooth it all out. Realistically, we should expect the 1.0 version to make strides forward, but probably not polish everything just yet. Still, for anyone chasing that deep indie-driven space adventure, this one's worth keeping on your radar. I've had quite a bit of fun with it when it works properly.